What if the very place meant to protect the people was hiding a criminal empire? Behind the grand pillars of City Hall, millions vanished, lives were ruined, and one woman risked everything to expose the truth. Behind the towering pillars and polished marble floors of Bellaridge City Hall, where justice was supposed to thrive, something sinister had taken root. By day, City Hall bustled with activity, zoning meetings, permit hearings, budget approvals. By night, however, it became the backdrop of backroom deals, laundered money, and a murder that would eventually expose a web of corruption stretching to the highest office in the city. This is the story of Mayor Alan Greaves, the man who promised change, and Charlotte Rains, the clerk who uncovered the dark truth. Bellaridge was a mid-sized city in decline. Its once bustling downtown had become a graveyard of closed businesses and abandoned buildings. That was until Mayor Alan Greaves was elected in 2017. Charismatic, with a Kennedy-like charm and spotless record, Greaves ran on an anti-corruption platform. He was the clean broom, promising to sweep the rot out of City Hall. Under his leadership, funds began flowing into infrastructure, parks were renovated, and housing projects sprouted overnight. The media hailed it a Bellaridge Renaissance. But not everyone was convinced. Charlotte Rains was a 34-year-old clerk in the city's finance department. Quiet, meticulous, and largely invisible to her superiors, she noticed something odd in the records. The city had approved a $3.2 million budget for a low-income housing project on 9th Street. But when Charlotte passed by the site on her way to work months later, there was no construction, only a fence around an empty lot. She double-checked the invoices. Payments had been made. Contractors signed off. Yet not a single foundation was poured. She flagged the anomaly to her supervisor, who brushed it off. Contract delays. Move on. But she couldn't. Charlotte began staying late, cross-referencing building permits, vendor payments, and contractor licenses. What she found was alarming. One of the vendors, Silverhawk Development, didn't exist. 3 other companies had the same registered address, a UPS store. The same signature appeared on multiple contracts, belonging to a man who had died 2 years prior. She knew this was bigger than a clerical error. Charlotte tried reporting her concerns to the city controller, only to be warned, "You don't want to mess with this. Let it go." That same week, she noticed a man following her car home. She began receiving anonymous emails, "Stay in your lane." One night, her tires were slashed in the City Hall parking garage. Panicked but determined, Charlotte reached out to a journalist at the Bellaridge Sentinel, David Lyman, who had once covered political corruption cases. She handed him a USB with all the documents she'd compiled. He promised to dig into it. 2 days later, David was found dead, an apparent suicide, his car running in a closed garage. Except his notes were gone. His laptop wiped. Police ruled it suicide. But Charlotte knew it wasn't. As fear closed in, Charlotte uncovered a chilling truth. Mayor Alan Greaves was not only aware of the fraud, he orchestrated it. He had created shell companies using names of deceased citizens. He funneled city funds into these entities, then laundered the money through offshore accounts. But he wasn't acting alone. Several city council members, the building commissioner, and even a judge were implicated. Together, they manipulated zoning laws, awarded fraudulent contracts, and split the profits. The entire system was rotten. The man Charlotte kept seeing near her car? Detective Mark Ellison, part of the mayor's private security detail, paid off to intimidate whistleblowers. At this point, Charlotte had 2 choices: disappear or go public. She compiled everything into a 98-page dossier and submitted it to the State Bureau of Investigation, SBI, anonymously. But within 48 hours, her identity was leaked. City Hall denied everything. Greaves called the allegations a politically motivated smear campaign. Then the unthinkable happened. Charlotte's apartment was broken into. Nothing was stolen, except her computer and every printed document she had left. The door showed no signs of forced entry. She fled the city and went into hiding. 3 months later, a grand jury convened. The SBI, now armed with evidence and multiple testimonies from former insiders emboldened by Charlotte's actions, raided Bellaridge City Hall. In a series of dramatic arrests captured live on local news, Mayor Alan Greaves was led out in handcuffs. 4 city council members were charged with conspiracy and fraud. Detective Mark Ellison was arrested for obstruction and witness intimidation. Investigators uncovered over $41 million in stolen public funds. Charlotte, still in hiding, agreed to testify in court under state protection. The courtroom was tense as she took the stand, her voice shaking but firm. Her testimony unraveled years of corruption and greed. Mayor Greaves was sentenced to 28 years in federal prison. The city's leadership was purged. A special election was held. Reforms were passed to implement transparency systems Charlotte had suggested years before. But she never returned to Bellaridge. Today, she lives in an undisclosed location under a new identity. The parks she helped save now bear her initials in a quiet tribute, see our memorial garden, but few know the full story behind them. Behind every polished door and gleaming nameplate, someone is watching. Someone is stealing. And sometimes, one ordinary person dares to speak the truth. Charlotte Rains wasn't a cop or a politician. She was a clerk. But she exposed the biggest municipal fraud in Bellaridge history. And it all started with a budget report and a lot that stayed empty far too long.